Hello and welcome. My name's Andy Crook and I'm your host for tonight's training topic on the subject of right driver, right car, right race. My mission is to help garage owners become more successful in business. How do I do that? Well, I do a training topic most weeks on one of the five pillars of business as I see it. So tonight uh, we're looking at a version of the right person, right seat um, methodology that's often talked about when it comes to business. And what I've done is I've sort of modified the right person, right seat into something a bit more automotive, and I've turned it into the right driver, right car, right race, and it's more of a detailed look at what you can do when it comes to recruitment or with your existing staff. Because you've got to remember, your staff are the most expensive and your most valuable asset in any business. And therefore, you must have a system that attracts, nurtures, and develop that talent. In fact, it's vital that you consider this in your business. If you're going to have any staff, if you're going to employ one person or 100 people, you've got to have some system that attracts, nurtures, and develops that talent. So, what I've looked at is the right driver, right car, right race methodology as a three-step approach that seeks to maximize the return on talent. And it's simply my version of the right person, right seat idea. Now, I've I've been to a number of businesses where I've looked at the people employed within them, and on just about every occasion that I've been into a business in a sort of an observing role, what I've discovered is that one of three things is wrong, and that is the person doesn't really fit the business, or the person that is a great fit for the business isn't doing the right job, or that the business doesn't really have, if you like, the right culture to nurture talent. So it's one of the three things that's kind of missing, or they're out of bed with each other, if you like. So what we're going to sort of look at as we go through this training topic, I've only got 15 minutes. So I could probably talk about this all night. Uh, is we're going to look at the three steps to nurturing talent, and that is identifying the right driver or the right person. And I'd argue this is the most crucial step. You can't do anything unless it's the right type of person. And then what we need to do is match them to the right car or role within the business. And you must make sure that they're in the right race. And that's the culture or the environment of that business. And how I come up with this kind of idea is obviously, if you know me, we used to do a lot of motorsport in our business, and it was amazing to see that you could get a very very talented individual, the driver, and you could put them in the wrong car, and by that you can have someone who's particularly talented, let's say with rear wheel drive single seaters, and if you put him in a front wheel drive touring car, he was pretty much floundering. The skill set, the dynamic, everything that goes on is almost opposite to what they're used to, and it takes a long time to adjust. Uh, and it doesn't matter how good a driver you've got, how good a car have you got, if you enter them in the wrong race. You're not going to win anything. So that's where you can see what I've done. I've kind of taken that idea and made it a bit more catchy for the garage businesses. So let's think about identifying the right person or the right driver. So when you're recruiting, you're looking for someone whose values, passion, and basic skills align with what your garage needs at that time. And the the thing to do is to create an organizational chart of your ideal business and what various roles and responsibilities there are within that business. Now, to begin with, you might think, well, what's the point in doing this when I don't need those people right now? Why am I looking at what might be in 3 or 5 years' time, what I need then? Well, it's to give you some runway, for want of a better word. It's to give you time to look at those roles and the responsibilities those roles have in the business and what they might be when the time comes to do that recruitment, so that you're in a much better position to know what that person skill set or their experience might look like for all of the different jobs that you can envisage in your business. Now, what I'd encourage anyone to do is have this organizational chart drawn up, even if it's just some boxes cascading down to the various roles. And if you've got a business and you could fit 5 ramps in, and you thought, right, I need 5 technicians. You've got 5 technicians, and what does that look like once you get to the point where you've got 5 technicians? What does that look like? What are the other roles around the 5 technicians, and will all the technicians be exactly the same? Will they all have the same specific skills? Will they all be doing exactly the same job? And just get an idea of what that looks like, and you can just sort of pencil it out, sketch it out on a piece of paper, and it starts to give you this idea. Now, over a period of time, if you revisit this maybe every year, you can color it in, make it a little bit more vivid each time you do it, and you're starting to build a picture in your mind of what your ideal business looks like. And we've talked about this before, and it's a great idea. It really does give you something to aim for, and it does, if you like, start to create the vision for what your business will eventually look like, if that's what you want to do. But what you must do for all existing roles in your business is you must create a person specification for each of the roles. So at this moment in time, you may have 3 or 4 members of staff, or it might be 2, it might just be you. But what you want to do is write down the person specification for all of the roles that are carried out in your business right now. And what you want to include in that person specification is the values, traits, and personalities the ideal person to fill that role would have. And then you want to consider the qualifications, experience, and maybe even the salary or wages of people who would do that work. And the more detail you include at this stage, the more likely you are, when it comes to recruitment, to match the right driver with the right car. Because what this does, this building of if you like, the organizational chart with the person specifications for within it, is it allows you to recruit specifically for the type of person for each role. And we'll sort of add a bit of meat to this bone in a second when we give a sort of example, and how you can, if you don't do this, how you could suddenly start to find yourself in a little bit of organizational trouble, if you like. So once you know what all the roles are, and then you can start, only then can you actually look for the right people to do it. Because unless you know what a role requires from a person, how can you employ, or how could you recruit to get someone to do that role if you don't actually know? And this is where the person specification for your existing roles becomes in really important right now, because what you want to look at then is the people you currently work with and the roles they're in. Are they a good fit? Have you matched the right driver to the right car? Because once you've found a promising driver, you have to consider which car they'd be best suited for, which role their personality, their skills, their qualifications suit them for. And if you're recruiting, that's brilliant, because you can get the right person for the right role at that time. If you've already got staff on board and you're looking at whether or not they're a good fit, a good match for the role that their personality suits, this should be addressed during staff one-on-ones, quarterly, 6 monthly, or even annually reviews. Whatever it is you do with your staff, it's not something that you can certainly get some idea of what role they would suit from what you know about them, and sort of casual conversation. But this should become slightly more formal. So this should be addressed when in meetings, where and however you have your staff one-on-ones, whether that's weekly, quarterly, monthly, 6 monthly, annually, whenever it is you do it, however it is you do it, this is something that you should add to that meeting. And you should be continuously evaluating their specific skills and experiences in work. And I like to add any interests or hobbies outside of work because it tells you a little bit more about them, what sort of person they are. And then you need to have conversations with them and you need to get them to consider their career aspirations and you need to look at their growth potential. And what you need to come up with once you've done all of those things with the individual in mind is come up with a training plan that outlines the various competence and skills they need to progress within your business. And if there isn't a role within their business in your business that their skills that they're working towards align to, you could start asking them to what other things would they like to be doing and look at other roles within your business and be open to creating or modifying roles to suit exceptional candidates. Now, when you do this, you might find there are some people within your business there is no role for, or there isn't a way of creating or modifying a role for. And it's an unpalatable truth that you're going to have to swallow, unfortunately. But you know when someone's right or someone's wrong within the business anyway. Now, if you have the right person, I almost guarantee you can find a role for them. It's more likely that they're not the right person. So, if you find a candidate or a technician with great technical skills and leadership potential, even though you hired them just as a mechanic, you might now encourage them to follow a path to become a team leader or service manager. And you might start to look at their training plan slightly different. They might not just go down a purely technical route. They might, they might have ambitions when they started out to become a master tech. But before they get to that point, you might divert them off, obviously if they're willing to do it and it's what they're interested in, to becoming a more sort of management based qualification. And that's what this all of this comes down to, in making sure that the candidate's in the right race. And what I mean by this is your business an environment where talent can flourish? Are you providing a an environment where your staff can grow and can adapt and can look at where they are now and where they can get to, and they can envisage doing that within your business? That's what we're asking for. That's what I mean by the right race. Is your racetrack one that's safe, a safe place for people to go and have a couple of laps around? So, and the things I've sort of jotted down on my notes to ask people to start to consider when I'm talking about the environment, the culture of where they work is: are you taking more than you give? So a classic example of this is, at the moment we've obviously got a technician shortage, but how many of you as garage owners are taking on apprentices or provided a key career pathway within your own business? Or is it taken from other garages and poaching staff and entering into some sort of wages war? And the only way somebody can progress from where they are maybe working, the only way they can see progression is to go somewhere else, because the business that they work in doesn't show them that there's a career pathway for them. So therefore they have no choice but to leave to progress. And don't let that become your business, and don't lose great talent because you haven't done that. And don't be the business that's always taking talent from other places without putting any talent back in the talent pool. Apprentices, people, career changes, all of those things. And does the environment match your ambitions? If you've got ambitions of this great garage that you've written down in your vision, in your organizational chart of your ideal business, does the environment now match those ambitions? Are there things that you could do to improve the working conditions for your staff? Because if you want to attract high performing talent, I expect they'll expect a high performance environment. And then when you start a new employee, what's your onboarding experience like for new employees? I know what it's typically like, and I'll do a training topic on this in the near future. But do you have an onboarding experience? Do you have a process that people go through? Or is it chuck your toolbox over there and here's your first job card? Let's get on with it. And do you follow through with your promises? If you're saying you're going to provide training, do you actually deliver that training? Do you say if you're going to have meetings, have meetings? Do you provide opportunities for people to become better within your business? And then finally, what are the working relationships like in your business? Are the relationships peer to peer? Everyone's kind of equal, a very flat organizational structure? Or do you have a more hierarchy where if you've got boss, you're the boss and everyone else is below you, they're your staff? Or do you have more of a mentor understudy to that hierarchy? They're things to think about when it comes to culture. So, as always, I'm running slightly over time, but here's something to think about and a way to approach how you could go about this. So you've defined your garage's core values, whatever they are, and you've got those written down. And create questions at interview that reveal a candidate's values and work ethic so that they match your values. Have you even done that? That's something you could do. And I would argue that you need to look for passion for the automotive industry, less so than experience. And then assess at interview a candidate's ability to learn and adapt, which is more important, I think, to their skills now in our ever-evolving industry. What I'm trying to say is they might not have the right qualifications, but if they have the right attitude, you can work together to find a better alternative role in the business or create a training program so they become an asset to your business. So what that is often said to, and what that boils down to, it's often said it's better to hire someone with the right fit and train them than hire someone with the right skills and qualifications that isn't a fit for your organization. And that leads me onto the next point about that is if you always look in the same place, you'll always get the same kind of people. So there is a very, very wide talent pool out there of people we could attract into our industry. And if we have similar roles that need different personality traits, you might find that your generic recruitment process attracts the same type of people and not the right type of talent. So just before we finish, I'll give you the example that I alluded to earlier on, where there are 3 technicians in a business and a recently qualified apprentice who isn't being considered for this role because he's just recently qualified. And the first technician has a great eye for detail, loves procedure and following routines. A real people person who loves to chat with customers. The second technician is an out-of-the-box thinker, a problem solver who thrives on the challenge of difficult diagnostic conundrums, but avoids customers like the plague. He hates calling them once he's found out what's wrong with the car, and he hates meeting them face to face. The third has been with you the longest, a seasoned technician who gets on with any mechanical tasks with a minimum of fuss. However, hates electrical jobs as much as they hate being in charge when you're not around. You want to add ADAS to your service offering and are considering who should go on the training first. Who's most suited to the role? And the thing to bear in mind about this place, this workplace, is the culture in this garage is accidental. The business has grown organically. The relationships are very much peer-to-peer, with the seniority more to do with time served in the business than leadership or ability. Basically, as it quite commonly happens in our trade, they started a garage, they employed someone, that person's been with them since the beginning, and those 2 people work very, very closely together. Since they've come along, they've taken on an apprentice who's become a technician. They've employed someone as another technician. They've another apprentice, and they're about to start another apprentice. So they're developing talent, but the culture is accidental. And during conversations and reviews, it's Technician 2 that has shown the most interest in ADAS. Technician 1 is happiest doing MOTs, and Tech 3 isn't interested at all. Now, to make the situation further more difficult, there's also an opportunity for promotion to become the workshop controller, because the newly qualified apprentice is going to become another technician, and the new apprentice will be starting soon. So effectively, someone's being squeezed out of the workshop because there's only really room for 3 technicians full time on the shop floor. Now the owner is faced with a dilemma. Who should be workshop controller? Who should be the new ADAS tech? And who should mentor the new apprentice? They have all the right drivers, they have all the right cars, but are any of them in the right race? It's something to think about. You can easily find yourself in a similar position. If I've made you think a little bit about your recruitment process, about the people you employ, and the culture that you have in your business, are you developing an environment where talent can flourish? Do you have the right environment to attract the right talent? And do you have the right roles for your current talent? Because the key here is flexibility. Sometimes you have a great driver who doesn't quite fit in any current car in your garage. In these cases, consider if you can create a new role or modify an existing one to leverage their unique talents. By focusing on finding the right driver first, and then matching them to the right car, and then ensuring you have the right culture, so you have the right race, you're more likely to build a team of passionate, skilled individuals who will drive your garage business to success. If I've made you think just a little bit about that, then I've done my job. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.